Okay, good evening Concord Township and welcome to the Concord Township Board of Trustees regular meeting for September 16th, 2020. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And if you could all join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Dawson, the roll call, please.
Mr. McIntosh.
Present.
Mrs. Lucci.
Present.
Mr. Dondorfer.
Present. Okay, we're moving into the approval of the minutes for the August 5th, 2020 regular Board of Trustee meetings. Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes for August 5th, 2020 as regular trustee meeting as written.
And I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And approval is of the minutes for September 2nd, 2020 regular trustee.
Hold on, Mike, as amended, because we had approved minutes of the 19th, which we didn't have a meeting. So you need to approve the September 2nd regular trustee meeting minutes as amended.
As amended.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the September 2nd, 2020 regular trustee meetings as amended.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, well, before we get into the rest of the meeting this evening, for those of you that have been following us on the Township News, we have some great news to report this evening. We're excited about it. We've been working behind the lines for a long period of time trying to get this accomplished, and we're really happy to bring this news to our community this evening. So with that announcement, Amy Lucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is with great excitement that we would like to announce Lucky's Market Concord coming to the Gristmill Village Shopping Center in the spring of 2021. Awesome. Lucky's Market Concord will be the latest addition to the recently acquired and now locally owned Lucky's Market stores in Cleveland and Columbus. Customers can look forward to the freshest farmers market style produce, natural and organic foods, high-end meat cut daily by butchers on site, fresh prepared foods from our kitchen, and healthy living products. Other highlights include extensive beer and wine assortment. I heard there's a sip and shop in there too. And emphasis on local offerings and enough of the grocery staples to round out your shopping experience. If you're interested in getting a sense of what is coming about, please visit Lucky's Market, location on the border of Cleveland and Lakewood. Take a road trip to Columbus or follow them on Facebook at Lucky's Market, Ohio. More details to come.
Yeah, great news. I mean, family-owned business. We went collectively out with the owners for dinner recently, met them. It was a great meeting, and it's going to be involving locally grown organic foods, things of that nature. And it's going to be one-stop shopping. It's going to be a great store. It looks really inviting. We looked at a lot of the pictures. We are collectively going down this Saturday to look at the store and get a private individual tour. So I'm really excited. The residents have really been waiting for this. It's a great announcement. I'm glad we were able to get it done. So.
Yeah, the family was wonderful, and nothing brings people together like food, so we're all very excited.
For those that are on the phone, can you mute your call button there until we get to the audience portion, please? Thank you.
I think it was a great meeting. It's nice to see that it's going to be a local-owned grocer. I think that's really, I think it's really important these days, and it's exciting to see that they're going to take a fresh look at that space. I know that there's going to be a lot of change as far as what goes in there, so there's a lot of expectation to get more. I think pack more in. It sounds like they're looking to be able to, like as I said, the full service, be able to go in there for a week and grocery shop. I know the grocers seem to be aware that was something that Concord residents really wanted to see go in there. And I think the product is going to be unique. We can go anywhere to get a grocery store, but to have, I think what they're going to do here in Concord, they're very very interested in what the community wants, and I think we've had a pretty good pulse on. And I know I've talked with a lot of residents. We've all gotten, I mean,
right.
since even you've started. How many times do you get asked, "When's the grocery store
Right.
coming?"
It's the number
So
one
we were
question.
able to relay a lot of the concerns, a lot of the desires from people we've talked to, and they were just super enthusiastic. I think was the thing is, and so excited to come out to Concord, and it's nice that they have a concept. I know that they talked about doing. Originally, this is the people that were going to take over that space, and they had talked about wanting to develop their own brand, and they got that opportunity to acquire those other Lucky stores and make it a locally owned, Ohio-based organization. They'll be in Lakewood, I think Columbus, and then now in Concord. So it's just exciting, and I know something this community has been just desperate for a number of years now. So I can't wait till they're going to open in the spring. It'll be fantastic.
Yeah, it's exciting. They have some staff that live in Concord, and I know they've been working with the architects on the concept, and they're going to use that whole building space. It's just going to be a great, they're going to be great business neighbors here for us in Concord. So we're excited to let the community know about that. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we will keep you up to date on the movement. Moving into the elected officials report this evening, and with our fiscal officer, Amy Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. Dondorfer. Based upon some of our residents' recent questions and concerns, I thought I would start some financial facts reporting the second meeting of the month. It's just random as I get questions, or so hopefully, our residents will participate, and I'll be able to get you some random financial facts every month.
Great.
Okay. First one is in 2014, Concord Township spent $1,370,950 to purchase land for the Capitol Parkway Extension Road project. This is from 9 different property owners, and it was paid from our Capital Projects Fund. And that fund is funded through grants, hotel tax, and other special assessments. It was court-ordered as part of ODOT's road project. We were reimbursed for this through a federal grant in early 2015. Okay. In 2015, we purchased 7 acres of land at the corner of Auburn Road and Capitol Parkway for economic development for a total of $986,120. The majority of this money came from the JED fund. We did not spend $1.3 million on the 7 acres of land. Okay. So that's my first fact. It was also recently mentioned that Concord should have plenty of tax money coming in because of new development. And that's partially true. But when you have a renewal levy, Concord receives the same revenue off of the levy, even though the tax base is growing. What happens basically is the effective millage of that levy decreases over time. So individual property owners' taxes actually decrease. If you have a replacement levy, then the levy continues to grow and collect more revenue over that growing tax base. Okay? So I hope I've clarified that for that particular resident. Also today, a resident pointed out that in our my year-end report for 2019, it shows revenue in the JED fund for $905,000 and some change. Okay, so because of that, some individuals thought that that's how much money we received from the JED fund. Okay, this is total revenue for that fund, and it also includes SIB loan draws in order to pay the state's vendor. Actual payroll tax revenue for 2019 was $770,000. The reason the money was put in that fund is that's basically where the state auditor told me to put it. So those are several fun facts, okay? And I do apologize if there was any misinformation there, but all we report at the end of the year is total revenue in, total expenses out. I have a report that basically, if somebody's interested in that, all I have to do is contact me, and I'd be happy to generate the report, and it'll show you details of the money going in and the money going out, okay? So if you have any other questions, please do not hesitate to call my office at 354-7516. If you have a financial fact that you would like addressed, please feel free to email me the question at adawson@concordtwp.com, and I will try and include it in my report. The main reason being, if you have that question, other people may have that question as well. So hopefully this will be something a little different that we can do monthly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Bucci.
Thank you. So I did want to point out, we just realized we had an issue with our website email. We noticed that some of our emails were not coming through, so we apologize for that. We are looking at that and hope to have that fixed fairly soon. Just to kind of give you an idea what I've been doing the last couple weeks, I did have some resident calls regarding some land use and development, primarily just kind of concerned with how changes are happening. And those kind of things are, little complex sometimes. There's a lot of history involved. So I spend some time kind of going over with our zoning directors and then with the residents on kind of what we're expecting and what's kind of coming up. So a couple of calls on that. I also had a resident who had an issue with a neighbor with some tall grass. Our administration took care of that. The zoning inspector went out and will hopefully take care of that soon. Another resident called to ask about if we have the 2 fire stations under construction, how will that affect service? And I confirmed with Chief that, when Station 1 is constructed, that would go across the street. So we're still able to service out of Station 1 where it is now. With Station 2, they would set up some areas where the rigs, the ambulances could be in some tents, as well as some trailers for the staff. So there would still be full service from each side. Obviously, they would be helping each other out. So there's no worries there about lacking service from one station while it's under construction. Last, I did have some conversations with folks regarding the fire levy. We had some education. I listened. I respect everybody's opinion and very open to any and all discussions. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mtg. Mr. McIntosh.
Yes, I have also taken a lot of questions about the fire station project and/or the levy. I've done a lot of explaining regarding what it means and the cost of it and the project. Also have had some questions about how we're going to manage service, and have also dialogued quite extensively with Chief Sabo about that as working. I've also had several conversations about some zoning issues and/or questions, some development going on around the township. Have an ongoing conversation with a resident regarding some stormwater issues there in the neighborhood that we're working with the county on. Did get a report of some vandalism in a park on Colburn. Looked like there was some partying going on. So I actually stopped by, and I got that message a little late one day, but we went out and took care of it on, I think Monday morning. Service department did a great job because we got an email from another resident saying they had noticed it and they were thankful we cleaned it up. So just a lot going on. And of course we had that long meeting, or a good extensive conversation with the folks regarding the grocery store. So been a busy couple weeks, and that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
I just have a few things. I did take some calls from some residents about some road concerns that we're looking into. I also met with a resident at one of the Concord parks regarding some trees that might need to be trimmed, as far as long branches hanging over a trail, that I'm going to get with Mr. Brown about. And I fielded some questions also about the fire station levy and the actual financial costs and things of that nature that I hope to clarify with the residents that contacted me. So moving on to department reports. Our administration department, Mr. Rhodes. Can you mute your phone, please?
That was like a WebEx.
Like
That's the live stream.
How the hell do you find the live stream?
Okay, that is something to talk about.
Can you please mute your phone, please, for a moment until we get to the audience portion? Thank you. Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Dondorfer, members of the board, Mrs. Dawson, members of the audience, both here and on the phone. Thank you very much. Just a few items to cover quickly. Within the next few weeks down at the cemetery, we're going to be doing some maintenance around the concrete area that surrounds the columbarium. The area is going to be cleaned, painted, and resealed. Once that job is completed, it will be temporarily roped off for a day or two, depending on the weather, to let it fully dry and cure. And then the columbariums will be reopened, but it's a opportunity with good weather to spruce that up. So that will happen within the next couple of weeks. Once that's opened back up, please remember that the sealant on the concrete has a tendency, and we're going to post a sign, it can be a little slippery when it's wet, so please use caution there. I covered this last time, I want to cover it again. Our annual shred day is scheduled for Saturday, September 26th from 10 a.m. to noon. Due to COVID restrictions, we are asking residents to remain in their vehicle, have their materials that they desire to be shredded placed in the trunk or the hatchback area of the vehicle. A township employee will remove the boxes. This year, due to COVID, residents will not be able to stand around and watch the shredding as they have in years past, and we are not returning boxes. If you wish to have a certificate of destruction for your boxes, please let the township employee that's removing your items know that, and we will take down your information to ensure that you get a certificate of destruction. This event is open to township residents, and there is a limit of 3 legal-sized boxes per resident. If you have any questions or you'd like more information, please visit the website, township website, or you can call 440-354-7500, and someone from the township can give you more information or clarify any questions. As Mrs. Lucci mentioned, the Contact Us section of the website is not working properly. There's a gremlin running around in our system, and we haven't caught him yet. We apologize for that. We're working to correct that. We're working with IT folks and our website manager to correct this issue as fast as possible. The staff has been retrieving the messages manually that were not auto-forwarded, and we are reaching out to those folks as quickly as possible to clean that up. So again, we apologize for any inconvenience or delay in our communications. And then finally, I just want to jump on the grocery store bandwagon and say I am absolutely thrilled to that announcement is finally made. It is the number one question that we get here at the township on a regular basis. I personally would like to thank the folks at Friedman, who are the property managers of Gristmill, and the Saltzman family for working together and getting this deal done. It's been terrific, and we look forward to spring of '21 when we can start shopping for groceries right here in Concord Township.
Great.
That concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Okay, moving on to our audience portion. For those of you that are online with us this evening, we're going to start out with people that are online with us. Last name beginning with A through I. If you're on the phone and you'd like to speak during the audience portion, if you could state your name and address for the record, and go ahead, please. Okay, seeing none, if there's anybody on the line with the last name that begins with J through R, you can please state your name and address for the record and speak, please.
Is this on the phone?
Yes, ma'am, on the phone.
Okay.
I apologize.
Yes, Linda Kangas, 7061 Cascade Road. Yes, I have 2 questions for you. And I think that sometimes this is conundrum to the residents. I read in the grapevine that you don't have actual costs of construction for both stations, and we've known that. And I know that you had also said it'll be some time before we see actual costs of construction for both stations. So how is it that you can present residents with costs that are almost the same as last year in the sale levy, but we don't have any actual costs to deal with in order to present a levy on our ballot? How does that work? That you can just decide a figure and put it on the ballot when we don't have costs?
Is that Okay, we're gonna address everything at the end, Mrs. Kanga. So you said you had 2 questions. Do you have one other one?
Yeah.
Okay.
A comment is that, yeah, I'm just don't know how you can ask, the residents for any tax levy unless we have firm costs. But the second question has to do with, during the stakeholder meetings and the trustee meetings, you stated that you could build both stations by asking residents for $6 million tax levy. And yet we now have $8 million up there. And the thought was that you needed some extra elbow room. And what would be the elbow room? What would be for?
Okay, thank you very much, and we'll address that here at the end of the audience portion. Anybody else on the line with the last name of R, I'm sorry, J through R, that would like to make a comment or a question?
Sure, this is Vanessa Pesek, 11705 Cali Court, and I had a couple questions. I also read in the grapevine that stating that if you vote no, that it could potentially be years before the project got off the ground. And yes, it doesn't seem to be relative to what is presented at the July 28th stakeholder meeting. In that case, showing that you could, if you had a $6 million bond, it showed that there was $3 million cash on hand, and you could collect $3 million more in uncollected cash, grants, and short-term debt, which would equal $6 million. So the water price for station number 2 is $4.95 million, which is not even 6. So how is it that you can't, right now, starting today, start building station number 2? And the presentation shows that you have the money and that you could start that station. I know that Trustee McIntosh, you said on next door that you were going to address that. So I would like to hear what you have to say about that. And then I would ask that we be able to ask and follow-up questions so that we fully understand the answers that you might pose. My second question is that next year there is a 2.7 mil fire levy that will probably go on the ballot. And so I understand from Amy that this would be a replacement.
Yep.
I've also noticed throughout the last year and a half, that all of the fire stations' salaries have increased. And so my question is, watching all of these salaries increase and knowing that a fire levy of 2.7 mil is used for a lot of the operating expenses, will this be a replacement next year and sufficient money, or do you think that you will need to also ask for an increase next year? That's my second question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the line with the last name beginning with J through R? Okay, seeing none. Anybody on the line with the last name beginning with S through Z? Okay. We have people with us this evening. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Is there anybody present that would like to come up to the podium? Please state your name and address for the record, and we'd be happy to hear from you. Yes, sir.
Take this off to speak.
Sure.
Certainly.
We do.
Michael Fisher, 7780 Hermitage Road. This is just a comment on things that I've noticed in the past, really strong with our previous administration. It seems when people get elected, their IQ goes to 200 and residents go to 10, and no one wants to listen to the residents. And I mean, I see it here. You had all these meetings. We had 13 million last year, 13.9. This year we have 13.75 is what this paperwork says. So obviously these meetings didn't affect you guys at all. And the other thing that I want to talk about is that we have some people that work for the township. I won't mention names, but one of them is Andy Rose and the other one's Matt Zabel, that go on Twitter and rag on the residents that pay their salaries. Now, if you don't like working here and people bother you that do things, then you need to go find a job someplace else. It's as easy as that. So you either shut your mouth and not say anything, or you leave. That's how it works. You guys work for us, all of you, whether you realize that or not. A lot of people forget that. We pay the bills, and we should have an opportunity to say what, where, and when, how we pay the bills. And if something happens that you don't like, don't fluff. Don't push the Twitter button. Just mind your own business. If you were working in a corporation someplace, you don't walk into the boss's office and tell him he's a jerk.
Well,
Okay?
you need to conduct yourself respectfully. I'm charged with managing the decorum of this meeting.
Yeah.
And there, you can speak politely and respectfully.
I am.
Nobody is disrespecting you, but
I didn't say they were, but they
Okay.
were. Yes, they were.
there's
and-
nobody showing you any sign of disrespect here.
Not here.
But we're
It
charged
was
with
on Twitter,
maintaining-
okay? It's not here. It was on Twitter.
Okay.
Okay,
You're
so that's
entitled
just
to your
as-
comment, but you have to maintain a professionalism in here.
I am.
I don't believe you're doing that at all.
Well,
You're
that's
badgering
your
me.
opinion.
Okay, again.
Okay? So
I'm
who's
charged
working
with-
for who, Carl?
Sir,
Yep.
or do you have any other comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, there's a guy by the name of Wayne Treffus. Treffus lives in Far Hills.
Okay.
He wants to know the name of the people that were in the photograph that was taken in front of Station 2 last Wednesday. So if he wants to come over to my house, we can talk about it when he wants to. Whatever, he's welcome to come.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay? There was another thing that I heard, that Andy was keeping records on residents in Concord, calls them his
Sir,
dossier.
there's no truth to that. I've already been called on that, and I have talked to individuals regarding that.
How'd
and
that get
is not
started, do you know?
accurate. Again, there's no truth to that. So again, I'm charged with maintaining the decorum of this meeting, and I'm gonna make sure it's professional,
Sure,
and that's the way it's gonna be.
okay. I was gonna mention, it's been mentioned twice now, I'll mention it for the third time, that you guys talked about a levy for 6 million, and it turned out that you wrote one for 8 million. So I was wondering, where's the 2 million, what slush fund is that going into, and what would that be involved in?
We're gonna address that question. I have notes on that at the end here, once we're done. There's no slush fund, and we'll cover that. Maybe we can clarify those facts. There were two separate packages that we showed as financial options that may or may not be chosen. The 6 mil, the 8 mil, and we'll have some discussion at the end to maybe sort of be able to clarify that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience this evening? Like to say anything? Mr. Aspen?
Robert Aspinwall, 755 Sarah Lee Drive, Concord. I guess this would be for administration. Have you information on the sale of Quail Hollow? Is there going to be anything going on? Has we heard anything of that.
I can address that later.
Okay, we'll address that. I think Ema might even address that because she has some information on
Thank you. One thing about the fire department, I just got one quick comment. The residents for this township care about their safety and the safety of the firefighters. Please vote yes on issue 1 and support the construction of the new fire station. This is very important. When I come by Phase Station 1 early in the morning or in the evening, sometimes the doors are open, you see coats lining the back, which is kind of, I don't know, this doesn't look right. They should be hidden. It should be, the station should be cleaned. I mean, you should see fire trucks, ambulances, that's what you should see. So this is very important for this levy, to get this passed. I mean, it's got to be done. I mean, it's $5 a month, $60 a year for a $300,000 home. I don't know what the average home price is in Concord, but it's minimal. I mean, that's how I look at it. 60. I don't know how much a pack of cigarettes costs, but it's nothing really. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Ansel.
I'll hold my remark.
Okay, you have to wait till the end. Anybody else this evening? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mike Horner. I live at Ravenna Road in Concord Township. Been here for over 20 years, retired fire chief after 20-some years. And what I want to talk to you a little bit about tonight is, getting rid of that echo from my hearing aid, is the fact that there's many people have different opinions about what's going on. But I'd really like to congratulate you on doing everything you said you would do. I came to you after the last levy and talked to most of you about what I saw were issues that caused problems. After speaking with the ACT group, we addressed most every one of their issues with you, and you did the same thing by holding your stakeholder meetings. You brought forth information, you brought forth a plan. And the fact is, you're asking for a 6/10 of a mil to put both fire stations up that have been nothing but trouble and maintenance and cost for 20 years for me and 11 years before that with Chief Terriaco. They're not in good repair, although maintenance has been done on them to keep the roofs from leaking. And the fact is, Station 2 is not a very good place to be. It started off as a 2-car garage. Chief Terriaco put bunks in it when they finally put people in there when it didn't even have a restroom. We put an addition on in '98 to try to make it a little better so that we could take care of the people. Because if we don't take care of those pieces of equipment that we spend thousands and thousands of dollars on, and the people that we put in here, who is our most valuable investment in this township, are the firefighters. They need to have a place where it can take care of their equipment, all their equipment, their personal equipment, their fire equipment, as well as being able to respond in a responsible amount of time. And when you have good stations on the same level in good locations in our township is what you're doing, they now can respond safely to take care of the residents. Station 1, I can tell you that at least in my 20 years, we had 3 ankle injuries coming down the stairs from training, or if they were taking rest in between calls in the evening or lunch or whatever, coming down those stairs to be able to get out of the station within a minute. Those stairs are dangerous. We need to put it all on one level. And you moving the station across the street, utilizing that vacant property, cutting down on the square footage, you did everything that we talked about. I admire you for doing that. You have a good plan. And many people say, well, they say they're going to pay it back early if they can. Well, you can't put that in writing. You can tell people we're going to do our best, but what if the economy changes? The most important thing is to keep the firefighters that we have. When you start adjusting and taking from their operational funds, which we strive for years to not touch the operational fund, to get JED to help buy equipment, this millage that you're putting on is the only way to keep that secure and keep the number of firefighters that you have responding for our residents to keep us safe. The reason we have that many is because we get multiple calls. Station 2, Station 1 at the same time. Takes 4 people to handle a full arrest. That's why you have the number of people that you have. You've got to take care of them, and the stations are the way to do it. Give them good places to stay, good places to have their equipment maintained. They'll maintain it for you. They're good housekeepers. They're good stewards of your money. No one in this township government has ever been frivolous with the funds. They've been good stewards. And I appreciate that, and I just wanted to tell you that. And as far as somebody saying something on social media, sometimes we shouldn't be keyboard warriors, but it's on their personal time. They have a right to their First Amendment rights. There's no law broken, but everybody ought to take a chill pill. Everybody has their own personal feelings about this. My feelings are this needs to go forward and get it done. Now is the right time and the right thing to do. Any questions?
Thank you. Anybody else joining us this evening? Thank you, Mr. Warner. Okay, so before we move into these, answering some of these audience portion questions, I just want to start out by saying that, this is a contentious issue. It's emotional. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion, but we are going to hold these meetings and this dialogue in an orderly fashion. There's not going to be any type of inappropriate or disrespectful behavior. I mean, I'm charged with the decorum of this meeting, and it's going to be orderly, and it's going to be respectful, despite what anybody's opinion is. We're here. We can have a good conversation. So with that, I'll start out, and we can all talk differently with different questions. But Mr. Fisher, I always respected who I worked for in my years of service in this, not only county, but this community. I worked for the taxpayers for 28 years now, and I never took that for granted. Okay, so
You need to pass it around.
I just like to talk, sir. I appreciate it. I give you your time. So I don't believe any of us take that for granted. I know we work for the public. We're elected officials. I got into this work, and I got into work I got into years ago because I'm passionate about service to the public, okay? And that's what still drives me now. Nothing else other than being passionate about serving the community. So with that, there were some questions about the financial millage and things of that nature. That I think it's going to be good if we clarify some of that. Ms. Pesek mentioned the plan that came out when we proposed one of the financial options of the 6 mills, which was the plan that Amy drew up was 12 million for the budget estimate for the project, 6, 3, and 3. And then we looked at the 8 million, the $12 million budget estimate at 8, 2, and 2. That didn't indicate that we had 3 million on hand. That was just a example of a possible financial plan for getting the stations done. I know that Mrs. Kangas had mentioned, how are we moving ahead without any cost analysis on what it's going to take to build these stations? And we went into depth, over 7 hours of discussions at the stakeholder meetings on what the costs were. We had the architects out here from Virginia. We talked about how it was going to be, what the budget estimate was and how we get to the cost estimate. So we did lay some financial numbers down there. So and again, those are able to be viewed and they're online on our website, but we did have numbers there to show what it was going to cost.
Mr. Chairman, I think I'd like to say something, and I'd like to ask our fiscal officer to clarify a few things. First off, I appreciate the questions, and I can appreciate it's going on. I think to Ms. Kangas's question with respect to how can you move forward not knowing actual costs. Well, we do have budgetary estimates, and we presented them and we've talked about them with respect to where the project would be. So we've come forth with a plan to say that the township will provide 30% of the project in the form of $4 million of JED taxes, and then we're going to finance the other part of the project with an $8 million levy. So that effectively sets a budget. Assuming the levy were to pass, the township's stuck with that. I mean, we're in the confines of having to operate within that. So if we were to get into a project and we had costs over, and we'd have to deal with that. So I think the idea is that we move forward with the project as far as working within a budget. I think that's the process we've gone. And as we explained in the stakeholder meetings, you don't proceed any further in a project than we are today without knowing that you've got financing. You don't go buy a home unless you get pre-qualified. So lining up financing is a part of the process. And like I said, I mean, we've got the plan outlined, so that certainly gives us a budget to work within. And I think that would be a good opportunity for Ms. Dawson to add her expertise.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh. So in that, again, you were given two choices, and in that $6 million bond choice, that was dependent upon the last $3 million was coming from Capital Projects Fund. It also was dependent, quite frankly, upon short-term financing, of which I can't quote you rates right now because we're not going out for the financing. We could assume between 3 and 5% at this point. It all depends on how long it takes to get there. I was more comfortable with the $8 million option, as I explained to you, because we never know what's going to happen in the township. And those capital projects funds are used for a variety of things. You know, when Morley Road caved in years ago, that's what we used to pay for the reconstruction. Right now, we're having a problem with, Mr. Rose, correct me, is it Sarah Lee, or is it Nancy Ann? We're having a problem with Nancy Ann. You know, until the contractor basically walked off the job, we had no idea the condition of what was underneath that road. So many things can happen. We're certainly prepared to deal with them, but to go into a large-scale project without knowledge of having that money up front, I really wasn't comfortable with that, to be perfectly honest with you. It's always better to budget more conservatively and get that revenue in when you're supposed to get it in, and then it always allows us the option to pay things off early, which is something I have a history of doing since I've been here. That's what I like to do. The other thing is I have no control over hotel tax coming in. I have no control over, quite frankly, the payroll tax coming in from the JED. If something catastrophic happens with the economy, you know, there's no guarantee as to we're going to get this figure from the JED this year or this figure. They're all estimates. And we can save the money that's coming in, but I can't predict what we're going to get long-term from that. I hope that helps clarify as to where the money was coming from that last $3 million.
So in regards to the fire levy, the 2.7 fire levy, you know, we haven't made any decisions on that. We never said that it was going to be a replacement levy. So, you know, that's not right now on the table at all.
You know, I did want to say that, you know, the JED contract, one of the reasons why that income is not guaranteed is it's going to be renegotiated in 8 years. The 20-year term of the initial contract is up for renegotiation. So I have no idea in 8 years. I mean, again, well, we have an estimate. I have no idea what that's going to be in 8 years. I can't predict that. And then if you don't mind while I'm talking, I'd like to clarify Mr. Aspinwall's question. So Club Corp that owned Quail Hollow, the country club, they were looking for short-term capital. So they actually sold the property to an investment group out of Delaware. That investment group put the money back into Quail Hollow. So it was done purely as investment. It's still being run by Club Corp, and nothing there as far as the country club has changed. Okay, I would recommend you contact the Board of Governors over there if you have any additional information or any questions about that. But it's purely done as a short-term means to raise capital. Okay.
I think there was a couple couple other things that I had on my notes that I jotted down. I know there's some mention about, I think Mrs. Kangas mentioned about there wasn't that much of a cost reduction between the plan in 19 and the current project plan. And I think I tried to clarify that in an earlier meeting. The budget estimate, Mrs. Kangas, in 2019 was 10 million. And the budget estimate, what's that? Yeah,
10 million for one
right,
station.
for one station, yeah. And the budget estimate that we have for now is 8 million. So we did make some reductions in costs that I think are rather significant that came through working with the community in the stakeholder meetings. There was a mention about why did we go with the 8? Because is this extra elbow room, or is this going to a slush fund? And I think we had some dialogue about that also. There's no slush fund. When we decided over the 8 mil versus the 6 mil, you know, some of the things we considered was, you know, not financially strapping the township for any type of emergency that may come up. And then it put us in a better position after a Concord resident mentioned the operational fire levy. It put us in a better position, you know, to hopefully get us in a position where we don't have to go back to the taxpayers. So I know, Morgan, that comment about the elbow room, I think, was in your discussion.
Yeah.
We had a dialogue here. Maybe you can clarify that.
Yeah, I think to address Mr. Fisher's question about the why I think we are clarifying what the reason we chose from the 6 to the 8. So we asked the auditor's office to certify how much would any of the borrowing amounts come, so we could decide what that meant to the residents as far as a tax. So going back a little bit, being as that I followed some of the issues in Concord for a while, the JED fund was something that was created. In other words, we had the hospital coming into the township at a time, and there was no offsetting tax to deal with the infrastructure costs. So the last board had the forethought to put together the JED. So we often talk about how having a rainy day fund or something like that. Well, the JED is that extra room in the township budget. It helped pay for the road, and there's been a number of things that have come up where the township has used the JED over the years to pay for things rather as opposed to going out for an increase or something. That's part of how Concord's taxes remain in the bottom third of the county. If you're not aware, the tax rates in Concord across the county are some of the lowest. So when we looked at the difference between the 6 and the 8, at the recommendation of our fiscal officer, the 6 kept things very tight. It took a look at tying up all of those JED funds, and if we had a change in the negotiation of the rate, if the split with Painesville shifted a little bit or changed, or if collection in that came, or an emergency came up, and I don't want to call it, or it's not fair to say it's a rainy day fund, but it's an extra part of our budget we can direct other places. That would totally be consumed, and we wouldn't have that flexibility. Okay, so by borrowing a little bit more, and when we assessed the difference in millage, it was so small, it was a few dollars a year, we felt that it was the responsible choice to borrow a little extra, so that kept us from having to go back to the residents in the future for anything if we had road problems or things we needed to use the JED funds for, or we had to direct them someplace else. But rather than tie up all of that extra budget that we have flexibility with and consume it all with debt payments, we didn't feel was responsible. So we didn't think the 6 was going to really get us where we needed to be. It was going to tie up all the township budget and give us no flexibility. And we didn't really want to say no to something if an emergency came up. We can't do it, you know. And I do want to take a minute to address your concerns about just the communication. And I think Mr. Dondorfer said it. I agree. The conversation in this it's a contentious issue in the township, and that makes me sad. It's disappointing that we're so divided over something like this. It's not surprising. We're a divided country right now. We're in the midst of a lot of different things going on, and it's unfortunate that that these things are happening, and everybody has an opinion. And generally speaking, there's a right to that opinion. It's a First Amendment right that everybody has to express their opinion, and I don't feel right impinging on that. I think it's it's up to the individual. So it's unfortunate that we're having that dialogue. See, I think we did take on the, and I think we did spend a lot of time in the stakeholder meetings talking about the difference of the $6 to $8 million, and I agree, we did bring the cost down. We looked at the project, and the truth is, last year there was a $10 million levy that was put on. There's 0.83. We're down to 0.6, so it's a 27% savings. So I mean, I think we did listen. We did hear the community. There was talks about changing the footprint, changing the location, and lowering the cost. I think we did all those things on top of having 7 hours of meetings. Do you want to?
I just want to mention, I don't know where the 13 mil came from that you mentioned, Mr. Fisher.
I don't know, this got published, printed, so
I'm not sure what that is.
it said about 13 million for 2019 and 13.75 million for this year. So that's what this paperwork says, and that's what I referenced.
Okay. I don't know where that paperwork
Yeah.
came from.
Just wanted to clarify that was 12. That's 12. Yeah.
We're not divided on the fact that we need the fire station, okay? That's not the issue.
I didn't say that. I just said divided.
You said we're divided. We're not divided on the fact that we need the fire station. We're divided on the fact of how we're going to pay for that. So just keep that in mind. I don't want any firemen or anyone here to think that I don't think these guys need a good place to work out. They do, and they deserve it. But how we pay for it is the issue.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fisher. And I think that's why we're having this round robin here, is about trying to clarify some of the information. We talked about the financial plans in the stakeholder meetings. One other thing I did want to mention was that when we decided, to go with the larger ask, again, the Concord Township has always demonstrated the ability to pay off the debt early. And, like you said, we need these fire stations. We can't do it alone. And we didn't want to put the township in a position where if there was some type of emergency that came up, that we couldn't address it or be responsible in correcting it. So, everybody has their own opinion, but, I believe that we spent a lot of time trying to get input from the community and to, do our due diligence in coming up with the best option that we thought was in the best interest of the township. Yes,
I just had one closing thought from me. The difference between the $6 million figure and the $8 million figure per household, per $100,000 is $6. Oh, sorry, $5.25 per 100,000. So for a $300,000 house, that was going to be
just under
$16 a year difference. And the amount of money that we could put toward this project to do it assuredly and correctly, I thought was a good ask, so.
I just want to, I know maybe point of order as far as audience portion of communication, just want to clarify something that I appreciate people speaking on this issue, and everyone's always welcome to participate in the audience, but we want to make sure to draw a distinction that if you come up to speak about things that we're not going to allow the audience, we can't allow the audience portion to be a vote yes, a vote no kind of a thing. So we need to, if you have an opinion about the fire service, or you want to present facts, or you have questions, that's free. But just so that we don't have this thing, in our future meetings as we go along, I don't think that's really an official policy, but it's kind of always been the way at Concord. So I want to reiterate that going forward, if we can just kind of refrain from, I appreciate everyone expressing their opinions and so forth, but we want to not make this a campaigning bid as much as the trustees also try not to do that as well.
Right. Thank you. All right, thank you for everyone that participated in the audience portion tonight, and we are going to move into old business.
Excuse me, this is Vanessa. I had a specific question about inaccuracy in the newsletter regarding when Station 2 could be built. Knowing that you have notice of valid by cash in the hand, that you get
Okay.
And I didn't hear an answer to that, so could you please address that?
I can address that.
Go ahead, Amy.
All right, we cannot, in order to go out for bid, we need to have, as an example, if Station 2 is going to cost $4.5 million, I need to have that money set aside in order to go out for bid. We don't have $4.5 million out for in capital to do that. I don't have the security right now. I cannot put up the JED funds because A, the contract's being renegotiated in 8 years, and B, it's still secured to the state infrastructure bank loan, which the state of Ohio won't release until they finish a legal matter. So, I mean, we'd be going out with $2 million right now. Nobody is going to bid on that station for $2 million.
All right, thank you, Vanessa. We forgot that question. I thought we jotted everything down. I appreciate you drawing our attention to that. And that concludes our audience portion this evening, when we'll move into old business. Seeing that there's none, we will move into new business with some votes this evening.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the resolution 2020-30 declaring the necessity for street lighting in Quail Hollow, number 10, Phase 1B, an unincorporated area of the township in Lake County, Ohio.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye. I move that we vote to approve a step increase to $17.58 for Service Department Administrative Assistant Susan Bobnar, effective 9/16/2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve step increase to $21.16 for maintenance worker 1, Chad Gillingwater, effective 9/19/2020.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye. I move that we approve Fire Department PO in the amount of $22,644.
No.
What's?
That was a typo.
Okay.
It's $249,220.
No, we got hose.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hose and the ambulance.
Okay, I apologize.
She's
I don't
on
have
the
these in
hose
front of
right
me.
now.
All
All
right.
right, we're good.
Yep, we're
Okay.
good.
All right, thanks. Thank you. Thanks for making
keeping
sure.
us on our toes.
Yes.
No, it's all right.
I move that we vote, approve Fire Department PO in the amount of $22,644 to All American Fire Equipment for fire hose.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I get to do the expensive.
Can I just comment on that? So Morgan's going to make a motion, but that money specifically is coming from the CARES Act. It's a grant. It's for COVID-related expenses. This particular purchase is going to be outfitted with automatic disinfection systems, UV lighting. And the funds are, it's not going to require any funds from any current tax levies. It's all coming from the CARES Act. So, okay, and it's to keep our firefighters safe.
It's exciting that we're going to be able to do this. So, thank you, Ms. Dawson. So I move to approve PO in the amount of $249,220 to RSVP Inc. for an ambulance.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next is our trick or treating daytime for the township, correct, Mr. Rose?
That's correct. Thank you, Mr. Dondorfer. Just a quick comment. Communities are starting to set the trick or treating. It'll be an individual family decision, an individual household decision of whether or not to participate. But the reason I would like to set this is because typically the safety forces will put an extra duty crew on, an extra man on, or, the sheriff's department may have an extra car that patrols the areas during the trick-or-treating times. So I would recommend that we stick to 10/31 of 2020. We go from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay.
which has been the traditional time and date for Concord Township, and then folks can make their own decisions on whether or not they want to participate this year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We're good with that date?
Sounds
Morgan,
good.
Amy? Good?
Yeah.
Okay, on to future meetings and announcements, and as always, Mrs. Dawson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Dondorfer. On Friday, September 18th at 8 a.m., there'll be a JED meeting here at Town Hall. On Saturday, September 26th, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., Shred Day with the COVID-19 guidelines here at Town Hall campus. Mr. Rose just went over those, and I believe they'll also be posted on the website.
Correct.
Okay. On Friday, October 2nd at 9 a.m., staff meeting in the conference room at Town Hall. Tuesday, October 6th at 7 p.m., zoning commission meeting here at Town Hall. There's also going to be a candidates forum to be recorded with no audience. A videotape will be available to the public. And then on Wednesday, October 7th at 6:30 p.m., trustee office hours in the conference room. 7:30 p.m., trustees meeting at Town Hall.
Thank you. And thank everyone for joining us this evening at the trustee meeting, and we look forward to our grocery store here in the near future. So everybody stay safe, and thank you for joining us. That concludes our meeting this evening. We're adjourned.